Good morning, Hockey Nation fans. You're probably all tired because you were up late watching hockey last night. This is your Detroit Red Wings update for March the 29th. We are wrapping up March, and it's been a rough month for the Red Wings, as we know. However, last night, despite no Ben Sherratt, no Philip Zadina, no Robbie Fabry, no a lot of guys, Ville Husso, the Red Wings upset the team that's sitting in the catbird seat. The Pittsburgh Penguins have been like a yo-yo, and they are just barely hanging on to the last wildcard playoff spot. And in come the Detroit Red Wings, fresh off of being shut out in Philadelphia. Well, what happens? Seven goals for the Detroit Red Wings. Big night for David Perron. What the heck is going on? Hockeytown, this is an expensive win for the Penguins and an expensive win for the Red Wings. They pulled back to 500 in this game. 3-0 after the first. What was going on? The Penguins out shooting the Red Wings. The Red Wings losing the faceoff circle, getting outshot. This is the antithesis of the other games where they were shut out, where they're shooting more and they were winning more faceoffs. The difference is probably the power play, like 2 for 3 on the power play. Penguins getting 6 power plays. Red Wings were out hitting the Penguins. One thing we noticed with the Penguins, and this does not bode well, is they're terrible in the defensive zone. And Casey DeSmith is a smaller goalie, and you can really see that. A little surprised. This was an important game for the Penguins. Worked out okay for the Red Wings. 7-4. Big night for our friend David Perron. He was not the only one. Jonathan Berggren got the goal scoring going. Austin Czarnik, Joe Veleno, and Jonathan Berggren, they're on your power play. But it worked. For some reason, it worked. And Jonathan Berggren getting his 13th of the year. I love to see Jonathan Berggren score. Just thinking this is like seeing Henrik Zetterberg his first season. Now, there's no Brett Hall to play with them because Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk were on the kid line with Brett Hall when they broke into the league. But Jonathan Berggren, he is so talented. This is just such an excellent player. 1-0. And then Andrew Copp on a tip from Moritz Seider's shot from the point goes top shelf over Casey DeSmith, and that made it 2-0. Copp's 9th of the year. That's, you would like a 1 on the front of that, but it's probably not very realistic. I actually thought this went off someone else in front. I would like to see this again because maybe it went off the Pittsburgh defenseman. I didn't go back and look at it for the third time, but it kind of looked like it actually went off another Red Wing. Who's number 24? I didn't even remember. I thought that was Suter. But Suter gets an assist on it, but I actually thought it went off Suter in front. Then Dominic Kublaik getting his 19th of the year. For as inconsistent as he has been, this is 19 goals is a big, big win for what he's being paid. Jason Zucker, Jake Gunsel, and Jeff Carter flipped the script in the second, and it was 3-3, and you were like, oh my goodness, here we go. This must be an important game for Pittsburgh. So they draw even at that point. 25th goal of the year for Zucker. This is a good news story. Real comeback season for him. Rickard Reichel having maybe one of his best, or if his best season since moving to Pittsburgh from Anaheim. Everybody in Anaheim should realize this and get the heck out. Would Silverberg be better on another team? Would John Gibson be better on another team? Would Cam Fowler be better on another team? Probably at this point. Change of scenery. Trade me right now. So Jake Gensel getting his 33rd of the year. He's been a little bit quiet lately, but good year overall for him. Then Jeff Carter getting his 12th on the power play. So that was the second power play goal of the game for the Pens. And then in the third period, it was the David Perron show, getting his 17th from Larkin, making it 4-3. And then Josh Archibald makes it 4-4. And then the eventual, again on the power play, David Perron from SLATER and Copp, 18th goal of the year, eventual game winner. And then Perron did not finish there. He got his 19th on a beautiful backhand, making it 6-4. And then Dylan Larkin into the empty net. So this was a great game for the Red Wings, but we have to look at the standings and see how it affected them. Big night offensively for a lot of players. 39 shots against Alex Nedeljkovic. I said it right probably for the first time. 897 save percentage, but lots of shots against him in this game, and they managed to win, so good for him. Not much else you can say. I mean, Pittsburgh right now still in the playoffs, but if not for the complete ineptitude of the teams behind them, they are still in there. Like Florida has now lost 4 games in a row after thumping the Red Wings. They were in a position to be in the playoffs all of a sudden, and they just choked. This is not the right coach there in Florida, guys. Andrew Brunette a year ago, this team was like in first place. He was living on the fumes of Joel Quenneville, and he got terribly outcoached in the playoffs. You're not even going to be in the playoffs now. Oh, yeah. 3-point night for Dylan Larkin. 3 goals for David Perron. Jonathan Berggren gets a goal. That's all good news. P.S. Suter carving out a decent little season for himself. Goal and assist for Andrew Copp. So lots of offense going around. Moritz Seider was very good in this game, playing 26 minutes, it looks like. Yep, 26 minutes. Jake Wellman, 24. No Simon Edmondson, still out with injury day to day. So next up is the Carolina Hurricanes, or are the Carolina Hurricanes. They have 103 points. They've secured a playoff spot, as have New Jersey, the New York Rangers, Boston, and Toronto. The only team that potentially could not be in the playoffs is Tampa, but I don't see that happening, obviously. They got 7 games to go. Right now, you've got to think they've won 1. They're 5-5-0 in their last 10. Not playing great. Although last night, after playing horrible defensively, and I think, it looks like Victor Hedman's playing hurt. That's not good for them. They've been playing horrible defensively. They get a shutout. So this is the danger you have. They were, they played very well last night. But was it against a poor team? I can't remember. Was it Columbus? Maybe. Well, so nothing up there changing. And then you see nowhere really on their heels is anybody. Like nobody's going to get them. They're going to secure a playoff spot. So the Islanders with 83 points. Pittsburgh, shockingly, this can't be right. They lost. How does it show 1 win? This has got to be incorrect. I think this is incorrect. Hold on. Let's take a quick look here. We're going to go. Oh, yeah, 1 loss. So that wasn't even updated, I guess, when I took the screenshot. That's weird. That was in the middle of the morning. So really no change here. Pittsburgh, 8 games to go, 3 points ahead of Florida, who are mired in a 4-game losing streak. Like if you were Florida and you're looking at a 256 and a 257, this is coaching down, man. Come on. This team is better than this. I don't care. The team that we know is also inconsistent is Buffalo. So they have 77 points. You got to think it would take a continued collapse by Pittsburgh, but they're giving everybody an opportunity. Nobody's taking the opportunity. It's crazy. If even suddenly Ottawa are 3-6-1. So this is like winning by failing. It's crazy. So as much as the Red Wings have struggled, these other teams have struggled. What you really want is this. You want Detroit to leapfrog, or Philadelphia to leapfrog. Like in the West, it's crazy, by the way. Vancouver, 7-2-1 their last 10. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you suddenly making a push up here. You're not going to catch Winnipeg, although Winnipeg really giving an opportunity to Calgary losing last night. And then Nashville is hanging in there. Like I thought they were toast. So again, like 2 losses in a row for Winnipeg. But you've got, I don't know what's going on. It's crazy. It's going to come down to the wire, it looks like. Not making it easy on themselves. All right, so next up, Red Wings face the before-mentioned Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina having a monumental season. They haven't even had 20 losses on the year. 47, 17, and 9. They're missing Svechnikov, and they're still winning. But not they're definitely hurting a little bit though. 4-5-1. So the Red Wings can continue to play spoiler. You hope that doesn't happen because you want them to get a better draft pick. And let's run the tankathon and see how that works again because we like doing that now. Larkin 6 points his last 5. This is what's going on here. There's no Svechnikov, and you would have thought at the deadline they would have acquired someone because they lost Pacioretty. Wait, what? Jesse Pujoharvi's not your solution? No, he's not. This is a team that scores a little bit by committee. You see there's a lot of guys with 10, 11, 12 goals in there. But when it's clutch, you want guys like Svechnikov, you want a Pacioretty. So who are you going to get that can score? They should have got somebody. And I think they're going to really regret not getting that somebody. Just my opinion. Perron, 3 goals in the last 5 games. They were all last night. All those games were last night. He's been quiet until last night. Freddie Anderson, Kochkov. I don't even know who the starting goalies will be. It's not going to be Ville Husso. We know that. Who is the starting goalies? Let's see. Starting goalies tonight are projected to be is it Nedeljkovic again, or are they going to go to our friend Hellberg? I am not sure. It's not tonight. It's tomorrow, right? Who are they projecting? They don't project anybody. What's going on here? Freddie Anderson against Nedeljkovic. So maybe Alex Nedeljkovic stealing the #1 spot here, back from the dead. Good news for him, getting a little bit, showing he can still play in the NHL a little bit. He is erratic, man, and he is a small goalie. You could see why Husso is so much more effective long-term, and they need another goalie like that. They need another big goalie that controls rebounds and is not like this athletic, like giving up, weird angle rebounds, because that just creates second scoring opportunities. So 2 games left still in the month. Tomorrow night versus Carolina. And then in Winnipeg, they got to fly all the way from Detroit to Winnipeg immediately. And they will play Winnipeg, who, again, this is a very important game for Winnipeg. They got to win because they've got 2 teams on their heels suddenly. They got Nashville and Calgary. So it's an important game for Winnipeg. Detroit has 2 nights in a row where they can play spoiler again. Just wanted to mention last night some interesting performances, including what a season for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. 5 points last night, and he is inching towards his first ever 100-point season. He has 96 points. So can he get 4 points the rest of the way? Yes, he can. I mean, what a season for McDavid. What a season for Draisaitl. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 96 points. This is my favorite to win the Cup at the beginning of the year. And I think they made some really good moves, including what a difference Matthias Ekholm makes. Evander Kane is so good when he's in that lineup. And the way Nugent-Hopkins is playing, in his supporting secondary role, whether it's second line center or playing on wing on special teams, he has been really, really good. The goaltending is not perfect, even though they made that crazy Campbell. Have you seen this rumor that, they may still acquire Erik Karlsson for the playoffs? Because once San Jose is out, they can technically make trades. This would be a terrible precedent, and they would force the NHL to make a crazy rule change. Are you really going to go into the playoffs if you are the Edmonton Oilers, and then you're going to flip Campbell to San Jose to get Erik Karlsson? This is 2 contracts that don't, right now you're not loving either of them. However, it might work out really well if that worked out. Retain a little bit of Erik Karlsson's salary and then take on Campbell's contract, or just take on the Erik Karlsson contract for the Campbell contract. That actually might work out because Campbell is not a $6 million goalie. We saw it last night. Again, he lets in junk. This is a guy who was never a first string goalie in the NHL. He bloomed late, and then he gets into Toronto, and you're like, I'm sorry, he's below 900 save percentage, and they moved in a different direction that frankly has been a lot better. Like Samsonov's been real good. The Matt Murray thing's not perfect. Calgren looked okay. Wall looked okay. They've got some options there in Toronto. And the Samsonov thing, I mean, he's not perfect, but it's been good for them. I think it's better than Campbell, which is saying a lot. I thought Edmonton would have grabbed Samsonov in the offseason. So anyways, you got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins approaching 100 points. What do you think of that? Connor McDavid, 143 points. I said at the beginning of the year, this guy was going to get 160, 2 points a game. He's 17 away. Will he get it? I mean, last night, did he have 3 points or 4 in the game? Let's take a look. I can't remember. I was looking at this. I think he got 3 points last night in this crazy, crazy game versus Vegas. And Vegas has been playing superb. But you saw Jonathan Quick in against, the best offensive team in the NHL, obviously. Jonathan Quick definitely at times struggled. And then he kind of kept them in the game on a crazy save at one point where it was like, he was trying to hold in, but it was not enough. Dismantling such a good team. Whew. Jonathan Quick was replaced eventually by Laurent Brossoit, the former Edmonton Oiler, who played the Oilers in the prior game where they beat the Oilers. But Jonathan Quick is now 5-2 since coming over from the LA Kings. Watch out for him, man. He is a man scorned, and he has the experience to win cups, and that's what they're kind of counting on. I think no matter what, this was a good move by Vegas. So 3 points last night for Connor McDavid. So if we look at how many games they have left, is it 7 games? He would need 17 points in 7 games. If he didn't get another single point, knock on wood, don't want to jinx you, this would be a phenomenal year. He's been a little bit quiet since getting his 60th. Quiet. Only 3 points last night. But what a phenomenal year. This is like one for the ages, and you get the feeling like nothing could stop this guy. So that's that. That is a great year for Connor McDavid, a great year for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins heading into the playoffs. I'm excited for this team, and I kind of hope they not only have a deep playoff run, I would love to see the Edmonton Oilers get to the Stanley Cup final and win a cup. But it's a long ways out from that. So for now, let's have fun just watching. Can Connor McDavid hit 160? Because I think that was always in his mind. Certainly getting 3 points a game helps. So if he gets 2 points a game the rest of the way, it's not quite enough. He's going to have a couple bangers in there. But either way, even if he only gets 7 points in 7 games, that's 150. So, he's going to probably eclipse that a little bit. At this point, he's really, really close. And if he's close, you got to think he's going to rip somebody open. 3 goals away from I think it's his second 50-goal season for Leon Draisaitl. Do not overlook this guy. He is number 2 in scoring because he is great. He is so good, this guy. Look at the points. So he had 55 goals last year. Oh, that's right. He had another. So this would be his third 50-goal season. Leon Draisaitl, can you imagine picking Sam Reinhart and I think Aaron Ekblad ahead of Leon Draisaitl in the NHL draft? I remember thinking like, oh boy, because I was like, are they really going to do this? Yes, sir. This is how you ruin your career as a GM. You're Buffalo, you're Florida. Nothing, Aaron Ekblad's definitely turned out. And definitely Sam Reinhart gets offensive points, but not necessarily a game breaker in the same way Leon Draisaitl is. Third pick, this is when Edmonton finally really, really won in the draft, as they got Leon Draisaitl falling to them. Your third favorite team. They're my favorite Canadian team. Growing up was an Edmonton Oilers fan. Good morning, RJ Calabro. How are you doing? David Arthur, I love the Oilers, and it's been painful since 1990. They did make one cup appearance, and they lost in the final, which was an odd one. Like, wow, Edmonton Oilers are in the final again? That did not happen. Really? Yep, it happened in between. But, man, it's been tough you got to give a lot of credit to Kenny Holland. All the eyes are on this guy. You know, he did some really weird stuff, I guess, and took on some big contracts. But man, he went all in, and he's put together a great team. There's no real way to get around this. At the end of the day, and then he made really good moves at the end here, like bringing in Nick Bjugstad. He's got 5 points in 12 games. He's a big body presence. You saw him last night, veteran, 6'6", crushed into the net by Zach Whitecloud, got a power play. Moving out Jesse Puya-Harvey after giving him a chance to create a career for himself. The Klim Kostin pickup was good. Matthias Janmark is a great pickup. I was so excited to see this because I think he's one of those guys that can really help. Warren Fogel's worked out really well. And then just pushing and making the flip to get Matthias Ekholm, who has 9 points in 14 games and is a shutdown machine. This is all good news. I don't love Cody Ceci, but he's filled a good role for them. You know, Brett Kulak I like. Ryan McLeod is real good. You know, Yamamoto has carved out a decent season for himself. It's strange he can move up and down the lineup. Like, for such a small, fast player, he's able to play a third, fourth line role some nights, and he can be effective. So I got to give him credit. He's not afraid out there, and he's good forward checker, and he does a lot of things decent. And then he gets some points because he's got a lot of skill. So moving out the Tyson Barrie contract, bringing in Ekholm might be the pièce de résistance. And then you've got Stuart Skinner's maturation. Jack Campbell is a disaster. Would they make this move? Do you think they would make this move? Would they make this move to get Erik Karlsson at the last minute? Because San Jose's out, they can make trades. Can they make trades with Edmonton? I don't think that's how that works. I don't think they can trade with a playoff team. I think there's a rule against that. If there's not, that's strange. As long as you don't like the Toronto Maple Leafs, yeah, I think that their best opportunity is Tampa. I think they have improved this year. I love Ryan O'Reilly because, you know, a little biased. I think Ryan O'Reilly will be a big difference maker for them. And if they're going to get past the first round, they might get to the second. You never know. But Tampa's still Tampa, man. I don't care. You're going to put them in that crunch, and that killer instinct's going to kick in. They've got lots of miles on them. If Hedman's at all healthy, if Vasilevsky's healthy, if you got all those offensive weapons, look at Braden Point. He's going to get 50 goals this year, looks like. 47th goal last night. And Vasilevsky is still Vasilevsky. They've been playing terrible defensively, as coaches pointed out, but last night a little shutout doesn't hurt. That is classic Tampa Bay hockey. They get goals from Stamkos, they get goals from Braden Point, and they shut down the other team. Still not a great matchup. Boston's a scary matchup. No matter what, Rangers last night showed, man, oh man, Panarin and Kane, any of you that were doubting that move, you were so wrong. I did not doubt it. People are like, oh, he's washed up. I'm like, who said that? That's ridiculous. That guy's been one of the most productive NHL players over the last 5 years, despite his team not making the playoffs since, 2015? Jonathan Toews, by the way, is going to skate with the Blackhawks. We know his career is probably over, but apparently, knowing that it's probably his last days in Chicago and maybe the NHL, he said he's going to skate. I don't think he'll play any games, but you never know. He might step on the ice. I would dress him. Dress him, let him step on the ice. Why the hell not? Well, listen, they could really not. But look at Tampa. They went to the final again, 3 years in a row. And so they came back and they showed that they're a grizzled team. And that's the risk that you play against Tampa. They still got lots of firepower. They got Sergachev, they got Hedman, and they got like 7 other defensemen that are pretty capable. So you don't want to discount this team. And their third line is big and can score. That's what people don't get. Now, I think Toronto has really improved with the acquisition of O'Reilly. I think that there's all the pieces are there. I'm not a big Montreal Canadiens fan. I'm sorry. That is everybody else in this channel. That is when they made the final. That was kind of wild. We were watching that really, really closely. But I like the moves they're making. They're saying they're going to bring in Pierre-Luc Dubois. I'm like, ugh, word is that's who's going to come over from Winnipeg. I'm like, all right, well. Be careful. Maybe get Lafreniere. He's buried on the third line for the Rangers. He is not a bum. But man, if you were the Rangers, don't you wish you picked Tim Stützle in that draft? Don't you? If you were the LA Kings, don't you wish you picked Tim Stützle in that draft instead of Byfield? Oh, boys. So at the beginning of the year, I was targeting Edmonton Oilers from the West, and I'm going to stick with that. I don't love the Campbell situation. You know, Stuart Skinner's had a history in the WHL. He took Seattle to the final, and he beat us single-handedly, the Everett Silvertips. And he's always been a very good goalie. And I was like not sure he's gonna be an NHL goalie. Wrong. NHL goalie, big guy. He can go on runs, and he's a real clutch guy. So at some point he'll get into the playoffs. Yes, Bran, I agree with this. We can talk about that. I don't think Ottawa Senators are even going to make the playoffs, David Arthur. But Pittsburgh's given them every shot in the book. If they do, it'll be a last, right to the wire thing. We saw Pittsburgh last night. Terrible defense. Just terrible. Yeah, and I like the Ottawa Senators. Like, that team is really exciting to watch. Stützle, Tkachuk, Sanderson. The acquisition of Chychrun was a big one. The goalie there is pretty good. Not Cam Talbot. The other goalie. Mads Sogaard is going to be legit. Another WHL goalie, the Norwegian phenom. 5 likes. Thanks, guys. Hit the likes, guys, if you're watching this. So in the East, this is what I'm kind of like contemplating. I think Carolina ain't going to go deep without Svechnikov. If Svechnikov's out, that's it. Tampa is always a big risk that they can go on a run. If they get past the first round, it might be them just hurting everybody all the way to the final. The Rangers are a team that really you got to be concerned about if you're anyone else. The Rangers are firing on all cylinders, and Patty Kane wants a cup. This is another one of these, guys that has the experience. 3 Stanley Cups. Is that correct? 3. Lots in the tank, as you saw last night. And paired up with his buddy Artemi Panarin. If you were Chicago in 2015, you traded Artemi Panarin, you're crazy. They had 105 points or 109 points the last season they played together, like as a team. And you can see why. This is Magic Man 1 and Magic Man 2. Like, the bread man delivers, and Kane puts the steak in it. It's like, that's super. And I think Zibanejad got his 37th goal or 38th goal last night. His peak is 41. You got to think he's going to get that. The defense is good. The goaltending is the best maybe in the NHL with Shesterkin. Rangers are scary. Rangers got potential to do some damage there. And I think Gerard Gallant will have them prepared. So it would not shock me to see the Rangers in the final against the Oilers. And that would be an interesting matchup, I think. Glenn Sather's still somewhere up in the executive suite somewhere for the New York Rangers. Even though kind of retired. Is he up there somewhere? It's got to be up there. I don't know. If you're the Rangers, I would not trade him. You can say what you want about him. That is a stacked team. He plays a second, third line role. You can see the talents there. He's a capable NHLer. This is a guy that's, he started out really slow and people were calling for his head, and you were looking for him to step up. They made the moves to get Tarasenko. They made the moves to get Patrick Kane. But that kid line is real good. Kakko, Scheidel, Lafreniere. But if to trade for him would probably take a draft pick and a prospect. And I don't know if that's worth it. Because there's risk that he caps out, but I don't think so. I think he's a 25 goal scorer in the NHL. Thanks, David Arthur. Thank you for joining. DeBrincat to the Rangers in the offseason? Oh my God, that would be weird. Who's going to play center in that line? Detroit Red Wings injury. Chiasson, day-to-day. That is bad. Sherrod, the injuries just keep piling up for the Red Wings. Sure. And Chiasson was a really good little story there. He was really contributing a lot. But we don't care. I mean, really, in the end, we want this team to lose a little bit so they get a better draft pick, right? That's the game. So winning 7-4 does nothing last night except hurt Pittsburgh and hurt Detroit. All right, so what I promised was from here on in, we will run the tankathon for Detroit to that end. So let's just go tank. And we're going to run as of today, Detroit went from 8th in our last tankathon to 9th. Funny enough, well, you're going to see, but the 9th spot is actually kind of interesting. It's weird. If you run this lottery, what is going on in your website? And Detroit picks 9th. Every time we run this, Detroit picks the same spot. So they really need to move down to 7th, somewhere in there, right? All right, we're going to run it one more time. Oh, wait, what is going on? What is going on? Detroit dropped to 10th in this one. I don't know what's going on here. This website is wacky. Final lottery, and Detroit picks 9th. So you can see, unless they move up into the 7th, 6th, they would really have to fall. And I just don't see that happening. Vancouver is like crazy. Like, what are you doing? You were down in here. Stay there. Arizona actually also, like, Arizona's now lost 5 in a row, but they were doing all right for a while. They're 4-3-3. Interesting. Well, I mean, at that point, you're relying on your scouts and your GM to pick a really, really good player. Maybe they go after Reinbacher, the defenseman, the right shot defenseman. I don't know. They keep saying this is a stock draft class. Who's saying that? This is a 2005 draft class stocked with 2004s. That's what that is. Listen, the top of the draft I think is very good, and the first 10, 11 picks are really good. After that, I think it might be stocked in the sense that maybe your expectations for 11th to 30th, there's a lot of interchangeable parts. So you just got to get the right guy for you. And these guys might be NHLers. They're not going to be second line. There might be one or two that pop up, but they're going to be third, fourth line guys, I think. And some of them I think are too small. There's a lot of small forwards in this draft. There's not a lot of good defensemen compared to prior years. And there's no top 10 guy that should be a defenseman unless you think Reinbach or the Russian defenseman will pop up. So for me, it's not that it's a bad draft. It is a good draft. I mean, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 even, but definitely 1, 2, 3, 4, you're getting a stud. Like Erik Karlsson. Fantilli will eventually pan out. I think he's going to take some time in maturing, but he's super talented. He's a big guy. Obviously, Connor Bedard he's so good. If you like Patrick Kane, you're going to love Connor Bedard. Like a young, brand new Patrick Kane into the NHL who went first overall. Connor Bedard, it might be that or more. I mean, it's early to say, but he is absolutely that level. What's the difference between Jack Hughes and Connor Bedard? What? Not much. Maybe nothing. Maybe zero. He might be better. That's how good he is. That's the guy you got. And we took Jack Hughes a little bit of time, but I think Connor Bedard might be ahead of where Jack Hughes is at the same age. He's playing in a much tougher league and playing against, much better players, like older guys, bigger guys. He's dominated on the world stage, like absolutely destroyed on the world stage. Connor Bedard is really, really good. Fantilli's real good, but he's an 04. Michkov's an 04. Michkov may not come over. Well, so what you're predicting is that Anaheim wins the draft lottery? I mean, that is definitely random. It's possible. Could be Columbus. Could be them. Could be San Jose. You got to hope that he goes somewhere. If Bedard goes to Anaheim, you already got Mason McTavish. You already got Zegras. And you already got Drysdale. You got Olin Zellweger coming. By the way, Olin's got 32 or 33 goals in the WHL. If he's not the defenseman of the year again in the WHL, we trade him to Kamloops. They're going to, I think, make a deep playoff run in the WHL, but they're going to come up against Seattle at some point, and Seattle's stocked. But if anyone's going to knock off Seattle in the WHL, the Thunderbirds, it is going to be Kamloops, and that was with Olen Zellweger, Ryan Hofer, Logan Stankoven, and a bunch of other really good players. If Bedard goes to Anaheim, I mean, he could be better than Trevor Zegras. He would absolutely elevate those other guys. Mason McTavish, we're already seeing as an excellent, excellent third overall draft pick. I called this. A lot of people didn't, and I was like, God, that guy's so good. You could see it in the under 17s of the Hlinka in that draft year. And that was the team Olin was on, I think. Here are like two guys, Mason McTavish, Olen Zellweger, go to Team Canada, do the same thing. Yes, at the U20s. So Zellweger, I'm telling you, gonna be a pro. Is it next year? Is it the year after? Next year he'll be in the AHL, and he bet you he gets into the NHL by the end of the season. When I went to see him as an 18-year-old, he was already the 5th best defenseman on that team. I was on the ice. I'm like, wow, that's how you realized you knew Olin was such a highly skilled, great skater. But then you see him, and it's like, well, he's a better skater than Josh Manson, who got traded eventually. But he was the 5th best defenseman on the Anaheim Ducks at his first training camp. So he takes maturing, and he's had 2 monster seasons in the WHL. Like this season, monster season. Go look at his numbers in the WHL.ca and look at Olen Zellweger. And it's really interesting because we're going through our WHL draft questionnaires, and there's some smaller defensemen that are US-born defensemen, and we're getting those questionnaires back, and they're all saying, well, I want to go NCAA, but I really like Olen Zellweger. They looked at Olen Zellweger, who is 5'9", 180, 185. He works his butt off. That's going to be a big piece of Anaheim. So you throw in Connor Bedard to that mix with Drysdale, with McTavish, with Trevor Zegras. That's a pretty good team. That's a real good group. If he goes to Columbus, do they still not have a centerman in Columbus? Well, Kent Johnson's turning out very well. That's looking great. That was another guy we drafted, never came to Everett. Johnny Gaudreau having a good year if you look at his numbers. He's on pace for a point a game in a pretty bad team. So you throw in a Connor Bedard, he could change the trajectory of Columbus, but they still need a Leo Carlson. It's almost better, I feel like, if they drop down to 2nd or 3rd and they get Leo Carlson. But no, you can't. You take the best player. In the NHL, I mean, the risk of NCAA players, you know who the top guys are. They only play 42 or 45 games. But they're, at that point, they're 18, right? So you're drafting 18-year-olds, and you're drafting, like I'll talk to 2 perspectives. One is us drafting guys that want to go NCAA or CHL route. It's either or. And the big stick against them is that, if you go WHL, it ruins your NCAA eligibility. Most corrupt organization there is in the universe that have jacked everybody's tuition because they got to give away free scholarships for $250,000. So they jack tuition to $250,000 so they don't have to pay the players in any sport, including basketball and football, which are real big money makers, and it trickles down to everybody. But in the NHL, the risk you have, I don't know. At an 18-year-old, it's really tough in the United States if you're playing between the ages of 16 and 20 to play anywhere of meaning. It's very difficult. So they created the U.S. development program where they gather the best 20 or 25 17-year-olds, and that was the right thing to do. So if you're on the U.S. development team, you kind of know who those guys are, and they're playing as older guys in the USHL, and they play a longer schedule for a reason. It was a good response. So by the time they go to NCAA, it's not because of NCAA. They're not developing in the NCAA. And if you look at Adam Fantilli, he has missed major development, major, because he left, or because of COVID, however you want to look at it. But he left playing in the GTHL. He went to some silly prep school, and the level is not the same. So he missed those development years. He went to the US, and then he plays a year in the USHL and he dominates. That's because, think about how old he is. He's like 17, 18, playing in the USHL. He is an elite talent. That's not the USHL in the end. USHL is like a holding ground for guys to go to NCAA. It's not there's not good players there. There obviously are. But at that point, is Adam Fantilli challenged? Probably not. Okay. Goes to NCAA, you're like, wow, he's dominating. He's dominating guys that are like 20, 21, 22, which is an age where players from the CHL, the OHL, the Q, and the WHL are probably already pro. The best guys are already pro. They're either in the NHL, AHL, they're playing somewhere else in the world, ECHL over in Europe. And they're just going to school and they're playing each other and they're only playing 42, 45 games and they're practicing 3 times a week. They are not developing. You got to play games at a high level. And before that, where did they play? They played in the USHL, which is an older league because they're waiting. And then before that, where are they playing? Weird places. Maybe they go to Shattuck. Shattuck, I don't think has lost a game all year at 14. At 15 and 16 may have, but at 14, it's the same thing. It's the U.S. development program all over. They gather these guys together. So one thing begets another, begets another. You're always the best playing with the best. And that helps. But in the end, you got to play games against really good competition. That's the CHL, the WHL, the OHL, the Q. So if Adam Fantilli, basically, I think you might have to miss a year or something. So that's the game the NCAA plays is like, oh, you're pro. Really? Why? Well, you bill at players and you give them stipend. You give them meal plan like we do. What are you talking about? So it's a big game. And it creates a lot of FUD because moms want guys to go get their education. Education's important to me. I'll tell you what, U.S. schools ain't what they used to be. It's a really weird time. Not that we want uneducated people because the CHL gives scholarships, right? You get a scholarship, it'll pay for your in-state tuition. It'll pay for you to go to any Canadian university. So we give scholarships, but there's a lot of FUD there. So, they artificially inflate. NCAA artificially is part of the story of artificially inflating, quadrupling tuition over the last 10 years. And it's unforgivable debt for every student. Forget NCAA. But part of it is NCAA saying to athletes, we can't pay you. You're an amateur. But they're getting major TV revenues for March Madness. They're getting major TV revenues for football. So that being said, you got all these old guys that are now going to get these scholarships. They're not getting paid at a time when players the same age are playing pro somewhere that came out of the CHL. So you ruin your NCAA eligibility. Big deal. If you're an elite player like an Adam Fantilli and he played in the OHL, which is what ideally would have happened, but we saw it happen with COVID. It was shut down. So I get why you wouldn't be around for that. But I think he would have been a much better player 2 years or even 1 year in the OHL than a year of NCAA. If you pit NCAA teams, which are older, against OHL teams, you can say what you want. The best OHL teams are definitely going to beat them, and maybe not even the best. You're going to be better, and they're younger. And they play a lot more games. They play a more of an NHL schedule and style. Much tougher, although, lots of people trying to make it less tough, which I don't love fighting. But what's next? Oh, hitting, don't touch each other. See what happened in Quebec? They outlawed fighting. So that's interesting. However, no matter what, those leagues are much tougher than the NCAA. The players are younger. And between the ages of 16 and 20, if you're in the United States, it's tougher to develop. You don't have that level of competition. You're scrambling and running around to where you can play that's at a high level. It is not the GTHL. It is not the OHL. It is not provincial junior even. So that's the reality of the two markets. So if you're a player and you can go to the Canadian Hockey League and hey, I'm in the top percentile, I'm dominating my age group across the country, across the world, I'm highly top 20 ranked or 30 ranked player, why would you not go CHL? And a player like Adam Fantilli would have been much better. You see a guy like Logan Cooley needed a little bit more time, right? Like he needs to mature physically, go to NCAA, dominate. And he's going to be in the NHL. He's so elite, but he would have been probably better if he played. Look at Connor Bedard, how much he's improved. And he's younger than these guys by a year. He's so good. So I don't know. For me personally, if you're elite, you go CHL. Yeah, I think it's like, so if they turn pro, I think it probably wipes out the tuition within 18 months. So if they turn pro, they're getting a paycheck of, if you go to the AHL, you're no less than $175 a year. you're probably some of the better players are 700 grand, 400 grand, 300 grand, right? So if you're going to be a career AHLer or you're going to go to Europe, you're making good money. ECHL, you might want to consider like, I'm going to go to school, right? But you're still making more money than tuition. Oh, Carter Mazur, 3-year contract. Good for him. Sorella, that's interesting too. Huh. So to answer your question, Andrew, I think you have 18 months or so many games. But at that point, you don't care, right? Like you're making money and you stuck in pros where you can say, I'm just going to go to school. That's fine. How many people are becoming doctors? Not many. It's a pretty good deal. And you get the best competition, you get a Scully, and if you turn pro, you're getting more money than you would if you got out of the Scully. And you're probably not going to go back to school until you're retired, which might be 8, 6, 10 years, right? 12 years, 15 years. If you can keep playing hockey and getting paid for it, that's a pretty darn good lifestyle. You get paid a lot of money. Go get a McDegree and try getting a job out there and see how much money you make. It ain't more than hockey, I'll tell you that much. Like guys are like, oh, I'm making $250 a year, and hockey players are like, okay, I get that in the AHL. Europe more, like $500,000, tax free. Some places like Switzerland, here's your apartment. There's a lot. You got to really do the math. NCAA's got a good FUD though. Good story. I don't think they're developing players, to be honest with you. There's just no way. You're a 20, 23-year-old man fighting it out for 45 games with other guys below you in the lineup. Best guys are already pro at that point for a reason. Absolutely. Anyways, guys, I'm going to disagree. I don't know about that. Maybe, who cares? Because you're not the same age group. 16 to 20 years old, you're not going to college till you're 20, usually 19, 20, and you're not getting ice time. So you can go party all you want while we're in the professionals. Yeah, this is not the case because you don't get ice time and you cannot play 16 to 18 years old. And you're right, some players are not ready for junior at 16, 17, 18, but the way to get ready is you play your first year and then you'll see the stats double for those guys. If a guy's 17, he makes it, maybe gets 6 or 8 goals, the next year he'll get 12 or 20, and the next year get 30, 40, right? So it's a maturation because it's a hard league. It's tough versus some guy playing at Shattuck. All right, so you got 16-year-old teams at Shattuck. We got U.S. development team. Bring those guys and put them against the CHL team. They won't do it. You see, when the CHL guys play, they play college teams and they beat them, right? In Canada. U Sports is no joke. Those are ex-OHL players. Those are ex-WHL players. They're good players. A lot of them go on to play pro after that. So when you see the World Junior team warm up for the World Juniors for Canada, who are they playing? They're playing U Sports teams. And those teams are very competitive with them. Still beat them because the best guys are pro by that point. Anyways, guys, have a wonderful day. Check out the games tonight. And RJ Calabro, I think, posted what the games are, and I went on my little rant about. You can see Florida versus the Leafs, Islanders versus Caps, Wild versus Avs tonight. And then tomorrow night, we have the Red Wings facing off against Carolina Hurricanes. And then they fly to Winnipeg on Friday night. We will see you on Friday morning. Have a great day, and we will talk to you all soon.